All right, crew, welcome to Podcast 69. Kent, why don't you start us off with this week's topics?
Yeah, so Vicki, Jeff, and I are certified coaches, and there as this sport is growing, we're seeing more and more, not just pickleball players being added to the sport. Because we just had a social just this past weekend, and I met a whole slew of brand new players that were new to me, and you can't help but getting in discussions with them while you're playing with them. They're asking you for advice, and the point of this is that as a player, and especially early on when you're in that growth pattern, that your game is evolving a lot, you're going to get a lot of advice. You're going to get it from coaches, and you're going to get it from partners. We all get advices from partners that we play, and we started talking about it, and we kind of came up with what we thought was a few of the more common pieces of advice. And we're going to talk about, is it good advice or not? And some of this, it may be for you and where you are with your game. Some of it you decide. Some of this advice may work for you now or not now, but it may work for you a year from now. So let's just kind of start off. Is there, first off, before we get into discussion, you guys want to add anything as far as just an opening talk about it, about advice, getting and giving advice?
I think just that if you keep an open mind and know and understand that your game is going to change and it is going to evolve, that possibly there's an exception to some rule that works for you and helps you progress. I know it did for me, especially at that no volley line. The changes that you'll make will help your game grow. You'll get more comfortable and more confident over time. And then those rules that are, maybe a little bit more stringent or something can kind of stick with you a little bit, or then you can work on those things along the way. And so it is a matter of understanding what works for you at a particular time in the growth of your game.
Yeah, and to add to that, Vicki, there's a lot of coaches out there with a lot of different ideas. Not necessarily different ideas, but some different, but coming at it from different ways. One may explain it some sort of way. Um, I've talked to a lot of different coaches, and I try to keep an open mind and just take in whatever different people tell me, and then kind of apply it to my game to see how it fits. What works for me really well may not work for the next person down the road. I think a lot of people get hung up on, well, Coach X told me that this is what you do. Like, like ironclad, this is what I have to do. But pickleball's not like that. There's a lot of different ways to play it. So, there might be some rules that are, that are pretty much set in stone, but there's a lot out there that if you just keep an open mind about it and just see how you can apply it to your game, and not get so hung up on Coach X told me this, but now Coach Y is telling me that. Well, there, you can get confused like that. Just keep an open mind. Keep an open mind and see how you can fit some of this stuff into your game.
That's a good point, Jeff. The other thing is this game is evolving too, and things that we were taught to teach and things that were taught to us even 3 years ago,
Yeah,
it's a little bit different now, and that's as just as a function of the evolution of the game. It's a little faster, times a little bit, a little bit harder balls, and some of the strategies that we were taught years ago as being the right shot in each of these scenarios it's maybe not quite as clear. There's more options out there. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me is I remember a couple of years ago, everybody was saying third shot drop, third shot drop, third shot drop. And now it's, well, maybe you want to do a third shot drive, fifth shot drop, or even a seventh shot drop. So that to me that's a good example of how the game is evolving and how strategies are changing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Well, want me to go ahead and kick it off, Ken?
Yeah. So Jeff, Vicki, one of y'all wants to. Let's start about bring up what we think is is an important piece of advice that we can kind of look at both the pros and cons of it.
All right. One of the first things we wanted to talk about was getting to the non-volley zone line, and then once you get there, do you have to stay there and hold that line, or come off the line, or what? Some schools have thought. When I first started playing, I had people tell me, "Man, you got to get to that line. Get to that line." Well, that was all they told me, which it was good advice, but sometimes you're trying to get to that line at the wrong time. So it's a timing thing. So once we get to the line, let's just throw around some stuff as far as when you want to hold the line and when you want to leave that line. What do y'all think about that?
Well, I know for me, it was a great relief when I started to watch some of the pros take that step back and let the ball bounce. I think when you're first getting into building your confidence level with your dinking game, it gives you more time by letting that ball bounce. And sometimes it comes a little close to you, but if you're even less confident taking that ball out of the air, you're going to want it to bounce to kind of help you have more time and be able to know exactly where you want to place that ball. That was a big thing for me, rather than struggling and trying to just hold tight and then getting confused whether I wanted to let the ball bounce or do I take it out of the air. I just started to relax more and tell myself, for a while, I'm going to let the ball bounce. I'm going to take that one step back and just keep sending it back and get used to just sending the ball back. And over time, it got to where I really then decided, okay, now it's time for you to start practicing more with taking the ball out of the air and giving your opponent less time, obviously, to react to what you're doing. But again, it was an evolution, right? It's you're starting somewhere, working, and those rules just can't stay so stringent in your head that it keeps you from developing your game the way that you feel comfortable, and can grow confidence in doing it. So that was a big thing for me, is just relax and take that one step back.
Yeah, so we're kind of taught to get to that no volley zone and hold that position. But there definitely are times that you need to take a step back, take two steps back, and as soon as you're able to hit whatever shot you need. Sometimes it's if you're in a firefight and just feel like you need a little more room,
Mm-hmm.
to get that paddle ready. Or another, like Vicki said, another times that ball bounces a little bit out of reach and you want to take a step back, take that ball. But then as soon as you're comfortable enough, get back up to that no volley zone. Because if you try to maintain your position a step or two back, eventually that's going to play against you, because you don't have the leverage that your opponent does if they're up to that no volley zone.
Yeah, I noticed today I was playing with someone and they tended to kind of hit weak returns up in the air a little bit. And I found myself stepping back 2 or 3 paces, anticipating being attacked because of the lofty shot that my partner hit. So I think that's another case where you're gonna want to get off the line a little bit, give yourself some more room and more time to hit the attack.
Zane Navratil just put out something about speed ups and being able to, sometimes with some players on the opposite side of you, you can really tell when that speed up is coming. And when it is, that's another good time to sometimes take a little step back, give yourself
Yep.
a little bit more reaction room to what's about to happen. So,
Yeah, to me, one of the biggest things is no matter where you're at on the court, well, I don't want to say back line, but transition zone up to the non-volley zone line. if you or your partner puts down a shot that the other team can't attack, then you got to squeeze up on that line to put pressure. If you don't, it's missing out on an opportunity. If I'm back transition zone and Vicki hits a shot that they can't attack and I stay back when I had time to squeeze up on that line, well, now they have an easy shot, plenty of room in front of me. Versus if I squeeze up on the line, now I've taken that time and space away from them. And again, like Vicki said, it's kind of a fluid thing. If you watch higher level players, they're up on the line, then they're back a couple steps, then they might come back up, hold the line, hold that line in a dink battle. As long as me and my partner are putting dinks across there that aren't getting too high, and I'm gonna hold that line and try to take some balls out of the air and move some balls around, because they'll feel that pressure.
That's
So
right.
it's definitely not, hey, get to the line, that's your final destination, stay there, hold there. It's a fluid thing where you'll get back off, somebody pops up. I see it a lot. Somebody will pop the ball up, somebody stays there at the line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're fixing to get crushed.
Yep.
The ball's popped in the air. Get back a couple steps, get back one step, get back whatever you can there.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think, again, with what you're saying is, remembering too that you can't just plant your feet and kind of just stand there waiting for the ball to come to you either. It is very fluid, and you're going to move back. You're going to move side to side. You need to have yourself in a much more athletic stance and the ability to move very quickly up there.
All right, crew, great discussion. I think we'll take a little bit of time here and take a break. And when we come back, we'll pick it up again. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pickleball Crew. We are a group of pickleball fanatics based in Southeast Louisiana and are passionate about all things pickleball everywhere. Our focus is to inform, acknowledge those who help build the game regionally, and promote tournaments in our area. We do our best to present this with a love of the sport, a sense of humor, and a lot of fun. So join Vicki Wynn, Ken Wynn, Jeff Fuchsia, and me, Bud Klein, in our latest episode. We are glad you are along for the ride. All right, we're back from that break, and Ken, take it from here.
Yeah, so let's talk about another common piece of advice and talk about the merits of the pros and cons. Is this good advice or not? And one is, or this number two is, should you stop and plant when hitting a shot, or should you run through your shot? And look, there's no absolutes here that you have to stop and plant, hit your shot, versus running through a shot. There's times that you need to be running through a shot because there's times that it's everything that you have just to get to that ball and hit the ball. I think for myself, what seems to work is it's that hurry up and stop. I like to hurry up to where the ball is about to bounce and I plant. That way I'm in full control. I've got my core rotation. I feel like I can control and place the ball better when I stop, plant, make my shot, and then I look where I'm sending the ball, and then I improve my position from there. So that's my thoughts on whether I should run through a shot or stop and hit a shot. What do you guys think?
Well, we kind of had this discussion yesterday at the Grove. So today, I really paid attention to what I was doing in that regard. And I found this. When I'm returning serve, I usually stand way back and I run through the ball when I'm returning serve. I do that. But I find that when I'm on the way to the no volley zone and I'm in the transition zone, that's where when I see the other person get ready to hit the ball, that's where I stop and I wait to see where the ball is going to go so I can make the shot. And, likewise, when I get to the no volley zone, I usually want to have my feet planted in a good stance when I hit the ball. So that's how I do it. I've found.
I think
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Vic.
I was just going to say situational is definitely plays into this, because when the ball comes high, there's a possibility, especially on a serve, and it's shorter, is possibility that you're going to look at it and just know that you can do it and pull it off and run right through it. But there's other times, and especially for beginner players, I think that you really want them to learn how to split step just so that they can maintain some control. I've seen so many times beginner players that just can't stop themselves and they end up right in the net. And, so it's good to teach your beginners that, but as you progress with your game, again, it's situational. And there's times when, Ken's going to be able to hit a shot that I won't be able to hit. So you have to decide for yourself which ones you think you can run through and which ones that you shouldn't. It's a bad idea for yourself.
I think it's a good rule of thumb to, like Ken said a while ago, move quickly to the ball, get yourself set, and then execute your shot. So I think you should do that most of the time. But for me, the running through part of this, the best example I can give is returning of a serve. And again, there's no one way to return a serve. It doesn't really matter how you return a serve. What matters is, are you getting to that line as often as possible? So somebody may have a good, solid, deep return, and their momentum gets them there. Some people put a little air under the ball, and then they cruise up there. Others come up moving through the ball with a slice return or a forehand return or a forehand slice, and their momentum is moving them towards the line. So to me, it's one of the few times that you would really want to be moving through a shot. Add it to your repertoire if you're having trouble getting to the line on your return of serve. If you're getting to the line 95 to 98% of the time, I wouldn't look at anything else. You're not having trouble there. But if you are, running through your return with your momentum moving forward is something that can help you. And there's a lot of videos out there that can show you what we're talking about. So that's kind of my take on this particular one.
Yeah, and I think if you're also, as a point counterpoint, if you're finding your returns are a bit inconsistent, while you're running through your returns, if you're finding more going out or in the net, because you've got the momentum of your body hitting a ball along with the swing. So, that's increasing the speed of the ball. If you're finding yourself inconsistent in your returns as far as placement, then you may want to slow down a little bit and work on, hitting a ball from more of a split step position than hitting it running through. That's a good shot if you can run through and hit a return and get yourself up to that no volley zone and be consistent with it. But that does take a little bit of work, a little bit of practice too, to get that consistency.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because the momentum, of the ball, you're absorbing some of it, but not all of it. And so you're adding to it and increasing the chances that it's just going to go flying out. Yeah.
Okay, good conversation. So the point there was, do you split step on every shot and hit, or can you run through some shots? And it's, as we said, it's really situational. All right, guys, that was a second good piece of advice that's very common out there, and we kind of looked at both the pros and cons of it. Who has another piece of advice?
Well, it came up that you'll get better if you only play with better people. Is that good?
Yeah, that's a good one, Vicki. That's you've got players out there that only want to play with better players, thinking that that's the only way that they're going to get better.
Well, I think the big point with this can be, and there's a happy medium, and the chance for everybody to do kind of like giving back and helping the upcoming players and beginner players. But in so many cases, if it is a just rec play, and you've got a player who steps into a game that they're just completely outmatched, it ends up being not fun for either party. It can be very discouraging to your beginners to end up in a situation that they really kind of don't belong there. So you want to be careful with this, and careful in giving that advice to beginner players who are maybe just starting out. Think if you convince them that the only way you're going to get better is if you get out there and play with better players. In this case, may not be, such great advice. Let them get their game going. Let them get some consistency going, and eventually down the line, it can be very good advice.
Well, I've always thought you should mix it up. You should play with people who are better than you, but you should also play people of equal ability. And I personally think you owe it to the game to play with people of lesser ability, to give them the opportunity to play up a little bit. So I think you need a mix, but to get better, I think you need to play with better players and players of your own skill set.
A lot of schools of thought on this one. This is a really good one. And I know there's going to be some high-level players out there that are like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing with anybody that I don't deem better than, as good as me or better.
Yeah.
And look, for those, again, as we said earlier, there's no one way to play pickleball or to improve. If your main goal is to be as good of a tournament player as you can be, and you feel like you just need to seek out good players and only play with good players, then go for it. But I think, and I guess I'm mainly speaking to, intermediate to towards higher level players. I think a good mix there, and this goes along with what you were just saying, Bud, is the best thing. Play some games with some players that are better than you, and let them expose your weaknesses, and then you can work on those things. But also play some people that are, at your skill level, or just below you, to not only gain some confidence and be able to do some of the things you do well and maybe have some success there, to see what you do well, but also to give back to the game a little bit. Does that mean you should go to rec play and just seek out weak players and just be like one of Santa's helpers? No, I'm not saying that at all. But I try every time that I go out to a rec play situation, I'll get in a few of those lower level games, especially if there's some people sitting around there that are new to the park, or you can tell when people, they're sitting over there and nobody's asking them to play. Well, if everybody, I'm having to shove dogs out, if everybody will kind of pitch in and do that at rec play, I think it's good giving back to the game, because we've all seen players that when they first showed up, they were not real good, but then over time, they turned out to be a really good player. Nobody wanted to give them a chance in the beginning, especially some of these younger players. So that's kind of my take on that.
Well, I also remember Bernard when we had him on. And remember what he said about when he plays rec? He always wants to play with people, not quite up to his ability, because that's where he gets to work on his weaknesses. He can really concentrate on working on his weaknesses. So again, I think you need a good mix of playing with different skill levels. And again, I think everybody owes it to pickleball to play with people of a lesser skill level, if nothing else, just to give it back to the game. Because somewhere along the line, we were all beginners, and there was somebody that let us play.
Yeah, thank goodness that's not everybody's way of thinking, because the game wouldn't spread like wildfire like it has. Because
Yep.
it's good for all of us to get out there and kind of get somebody started. There was a lady at Pelican Park a couple of days ago. Her and her brother and her mom and dad were out there. Mom and dad were just watching, and when he was just hitting around with her, and when everybody got there, we got with her and said, "Hey, you want to play a game?" Boy, her eyes got real big. She's like, "Well, I've never played a game before." So I said, "Well, come on, you fixing to play your first game." Got out there with her, and sure enough, we got beat 11-1. But she had her first pickleball game, which the score didn't matter. The score was irrelevant. Just trying to get her in the right position and help her with the score a little bit. And after that, she was like, "Well," I said, "Well, you played your first pickleball game. Hopefully it's the first of many for her."
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes it just
Oh,
takes the first time out there to get them excited about doing it again.
Yeah.
I can remember when Vicki and I were in our first year of playing, and some of what were the better local players would come out and play a game. You would get to play a game as their partner or even against them. And you just felt like that was a special game.
yeah.
And so, I think for those reasons, if nothing else, that it's important for you to play games with people of all levels. Secondly, it's good to be in a game where people may be even playing a different style of play from what you're used to, because you never know when, you can always look at each game and figure out something that you can work on and forget about the score, whether, you've got the weaker partner or not, and you lose 11-1. Just look at that as an opportunity to work on something in your game, especially if you're playing with some people who may have a different style of play than what you're trying to achieve or play at that particular time. It's also fun to play with people that are right at your level, because you get a good competitive game, one of those games that you get stuck at 4-4 for a little while before you move
Mm-hmm.
on. And then, of course, if you're fortunate enough to be able to play now and then with a better player, then you can kind of watch and see how they're handling certain scenarios and learn from what they're doing. That's always fun as well.
Yeah,
All
I
good
think
schools of thought. I would encourage anybody that's watching this, put in the comments below what you think. Um, you know, we could be right, we could be wrong. There's a lot of schools of thought out there. I'd love to know what some people think about it.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think just only playing with better people, good advice or not, I actually think it's probably good to play with everybody. And I think you can pull something good from a game, whether the people you're playing with and against are really better than you or not. I would tend to, I think the group is in agreement that try to play with everybody versus just focusing on just people that are better than you.
Yeah, go work on something specific. Get out there
Nothing
with
else. It's not as boring.
Yeah.
I
You're
don't know
gonna
how some of these people play with the same people every time. To me, that just gets boring after a while. I don't care how good they are.
Yeah, and I think that's bad at every level, Bud. Because you
Absolutely.
get used to the same shots that people are hitting. We've talked about this before. 4 high level players that play against each other all the time. The points might, look pretty good. A lot of balls going back and forth, but you're seeing the same thing. If you're trying to play in tournaments, you need to seek out some different play there, to get a look at a lot of different. There's all different styles out there. People that play slow, people that play fast, people that dink good. So just search it out. Try to get a variety of play. Ken, is what I would think the point of this whole this third point that we're getting. I think variety is kind of the the key there to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's no harm either way. If you decide to start out with, you're a beginner and you start out with beginners and then gradually challenge yourself with better players, or you get out there and just dive in. It's not one way is the better way, I don't think.
Well, and we've talked about this before. If you think you're a high level player and you think playing a game with weaker players is going to somehow mess your game up, you might not be the high level player that you think you are, in my opinion. I mean, I've said it before. What kind of athlete are you?
Yep.
Make that adjustment.
Yep.
I
That's
guess you
a
don't
good
want to
point.
play at that level all the time, but you can give a game. You can give a game to the lower level players every now and then, and I don't think it's going to affect you that bad.
No, I don't either.
All right, good discussion. I mean, we're really talking about, there's a lot of advice out there. We kind of hit on 3 things that we thought are a little more of the common advice. You know, when you get to that no volley zone, do you stay up there, or are there opportunities or situations to step off and then maybe move back up to it? 2, you know, do you split step when you're hitting a shot? Or can you run through some of your shots? I mean, that's another common piece of advice. And 3rd, do you only play with better players? And I think as a group, we think that you play with everybody. You know, if you really want to get better too, rather than just playing with the better people, get out there and drill. You know, that will help your game just as much, if not more, than trying to seek out the better players. But anyway, those are some of our thoughts as a group.
And now it's time for Jeff and his Burr Under My Saddle.
You're burr under my saddle, your thorn sticking in my side.
Let me tell you something, people. I keep seeing this at the courts, and tired of seeing it. It's called common decency. When you got some folks that show up at your courts, it may be people you know or people you don't know, and they're standing around and they got their paddles in their hand. They're ready to play. Somebody go over there and go let it be a warm up game, or give them a warm up game. Stop staring through these people like they're not there. Had this happen out at Pelican Park yesterday. Had a lot of guys with a lot of testosterone flowing, and boy, they're wanting to get in these what they consider high level matches, which is good. If that's your thing, go for it. But just look around, especially in a rec play situation. I would hate it if I went somewhere and I'm kind of standing around, you know, with my paddle in my hand, and nobody, you know, there's several people there, and nobody's coming up welcoming me in. So let's don't be those people. But guess what? If you want to be one of those people, go for it. You'll probably end up in pickleball hell instead of pickleball heaven, but go for it. Go be what you want to be. All right, bud. I kind of winged that one, but that's this week's Burr Under My Saddle.
All right, Jeff, thanks for that Burr Under My Saddle. That was a good one.
Hey, bud, I've got a shout out. All righty, bud. I'm going to send a big shout out to Susie, Carly, Nikki, Brennan, and all of the Pelican Park staff that helped to put on our Pickleball Community Day this past Saturday. We were so excited about it. We had over 60 people. And, you know, it was also a duper event. So we ended up with some people that, you know, didn't have duper numbers that now do. And we even had a number of duper matches take place that Bud was able to record the scores. And my other shout outs to you, Bud, for doing all the duper things. You know, people did. I know they had a lot of questions about duper, what it was, how it works, and everything. And it just turned out to be such a successful day. The executive director, Susie, is now so excited she wants to do one once a month. So we'll see if we can pull it together and pull that one off. But I don't know about you guys, but I was really excited about the attendance and I definitely want to thank everybody who came and looked like everybody had a great time. Phil Peer, thank you for bringing out the music and the microphone. I think it was a great time had by all. And one thing that you did see this past Saturday was beginners filtering in with other players, and people were very willing to move around the courts and play with each other. And even some of the duper matches, we had one young lady who came and she wanted a duper match and she didn't have any other players. So we managed to get at least Bud, she might have actually ended up with
She had 3.
4 duper matches or 6. I don't know, four through
She had-
6 duper matches. She ended up doing really
Yeah.
well. So great time.
It was a good day, Vicki. Thanks for that shout out.
Hot off the press, it's time for Ken's tournament previews.
All right, thanks, Bud. Let's start with January 4th through 6th. This is the Big Easy Paddle Battle. This will be at the Exchange in New Orleans, Louisiana. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. So registration closes January 1st. It's $75 for the first event, $55 for the second event, and then it's $35 for the third event. They're going to send you a promo code if you want to go do 3 events. Email them. They'll send you the promo code that will be applied to your third event registration. January 10th through 12th is the Snake Slam at Stacks Pickleball in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We'll put the URL at the bottom of the screen, but go to stackspb.com and look for Snake Slam. Registration is now open and it closes on January 3rd. In February 8th, 2025 is the BROC Foundation Pickleball Tournament. This is also at Stacks Pickleball in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go to Global Pickleball Network and search pickleball tournaments for the BROC Foundation Pickleball Tournament. We have a long URL. We'll put it at the bottom of the screen, but if you go to Global Pickleball Network, you'll find it. February 11th through 13th, 2025 is the Pickle Gras, the Foley Event Center in Foley, Alabama. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. Registration will close February 2nd, and it's $75 for 1 or more events. March 27th through 30th, 2025 is the Alabama Open. This is in Clay, Alabama. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. Registration opens on January 16th, not open just yet, closes March 13th. And again, that's the Alabama Open in Clay, Alabama. Finally, in April, we have a couple of tournaments. April 4th through 6th is the Hattiesburg Pickleball Classic at the Willis Terry Tennis Complex in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. You go to pickleballsignup.com. We'll put the full URL at the bottom of the screen. Registration is currently open and will close around April 1st. It's $60 per event. Also, the same weekend, April 4th through 6th of 2025, this is the Carvana PPA Challenger Series Pickleball Tournament at Stacks Pickleball in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. Registration will open December 30th and close on March 28th. Also in April 26th is the 6th annual Eastern Shore Classic. This will be at W.O. Lott Park in Daphne, Alabama. This is a really nice complex. It's 12 outdoor courts. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. Registration has opened for this and will close on April 24th. That's it for now for tournament preview. Back to you, Bud.
Thanks, Ken, for those previews. Everybody get out there and get in some tournaments. They're really fun to play in. I think you'll really enjoy it. And now, if nobody's got anything else, I think it's time to say goodnight. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
All right.
Hey, from the Pickleball crew, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Well, that's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave any comments and please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again and see you next week.